Silent nights recalling you, a souvenir of what it could be. Pieces of my mind are yours. I forgot the parts I'm missing. I pretend that we are okay, like nothing's ever broken. And I pretend that we are dancing, like the nights are never ending. I pretend that we are okay, like nothing's ever broken. And I pretend that we are dancing, like the nights are never ending. We will live a life, we will live a life, live a life, we will live a life in the fast lane. We will live a life, we will live a life, live a life, we will live a life in the fast lane.
G'day, g'day. It's another day. Just making sure everything's working. I literally forgot that I was supposed to do a stream today. I kind of just, yesterday was a public holiday, so I thought today was Monday. So yeah. But anyway, welcome to PowerShell 101. Oh, sorry, no, it's not 101. Sorry, it's just PowerShell modules. I'm just working on some PowerShell modules. So just a bit of a live stream, poking around, have a look at the modules, see if we can get this code structure laid out, a bit of an idea. From there we can go forward and update. So first things first, I need to actually focus on the screen, get that up so everyone can see what's going on. Minimize that, get that up so I can see all that. Alrighty, let's get started. So, first things first. Oh, g'day Mark, how you going, mate? Uh, Alrighty. It's good, mate. It's good. I was, I was thinking about over the weekend. I did I know Michael and was it Michael and just quickly drag that over. It was Michael and I can't remember who it was now. They were looking at my chapter, and I made another pull request because I kind of needed to. I kind of broke a rule there, you know, don't do pull requests. Don't add extra content once people start reviewing the chapter. But I'm like, I think it was actually, I felt really bad about doing it, and at the same time I was like, but it's not too late, and I think it was crucial information. It was basically just about handling timeouts, handling, dealing with timeouts and any sort of issues there with the actual log itself. So, you know, what happens if you've got too many processes and the log fails for some reason, or, you know, due to too many processes, disk full, things like that, which, okay, disk full we cover, but essentially it's just kind of, yeah, it was just more dealing with timeouts and things like that with APIs. So when you're sending to a syslog or things like that and how to handle that. So, yeah, I felt really bad because I know those guys are in there smashing out the work. At the same time, I do think that it was needed because I do think that they kind of didn't answer it. The chapter didn't answer all the questions. So yeah. So anyway, today back to module land. So whole idea is to build a PS log framework. I was chatting to Romero. He basically just pointed me to PS framework and looking at the logging there. I think, to be honest, he's actually pointed me in what he's given is actually really, really quite beneficial. So I think, he's been able to give me a lot of clarity where I think I might have just gone down the beaten path, down the rabbit hole, and just overly complicated it. So essentially, the idea here is to build more of a. I ideally wanted to build more of like a DSC framework, but John Romero kind of made the comment that DSC is kind of going away, so it should be more based off Pesta. And so I kind of thought about it, and I actually did think that Pesta would be a really good framework to use, or the kind of the way that Pesta is built. I think that's a really good framework to use. But essentially, at the same time, I kind of want to still be able to use other resources. So like similar to DSC, where you'd have a DSC resource for, for Active Directory and things like that. So my whole idea there would be is to basically, you could still have resources, but essentially that allow you to build your custom configuration for your log. So for example, your log could potentially be a, you're logging syslog, for example, or you're logging to Azure's log analytics. So each of those configuration types would then be, available to the public. Would be able to actually just go, okay, I want to use that configuration. That's it. Don't have to deal with it. And then it means that, like, from a logging perspective, you're not having to write specific instances. In essence, you're kind of decoupling the code a little bit. I'm not going to say you're entirely decoupling it because it's still technically PowerShell, but you're decoupling you're kind of turning it into somewhat PowerShell, somewhat configuration. So it just, I think it'll be a little bit more beneficial than having, either SMS trace or you're using this or using this. But it just means that you have a better variety of, or not even a variety. You have an open book, so you don't have to worry about that kind of thing. You just build your configuration and then make it talk to what you want it to talk to. So. But the whole premise is to make it easier. So anyway, enough of me ranting. I'm just rambling, so I'm just kind of thinking about what I need to do. So my idea was basically to have some sort of similar to Pesta. It's basically you define a framework. So framework to be honest, it actually needs a name. So you would need to have a name. The name would, you don't actually need to specify the name there. You could even potentially have the resources as a parameter, to be honest. I actually like that. I think having those elements as a parameter would be better suited. Because at the end of the day, though, it's, yeah, I think that would make more sense. So I'm going to actually add resources there. Just going to call it name, and then I'm going to call this just resources. So you just specify your resources in here. Yes. And then you'd specify your dependencies. Dependencies similar to so we can get rid of that. That cleans that up. So then when the framework is loaded, basically it declares the parameters. It's basically just an object instantiation. I'm thinking about log headers, but that's actually tough because you can't really write a log header. Like unless, yeah, I think I'm gonna have a think about that. I think I'm overcomplicating that, so I'll just leave that out for the time being. So then on action, that's basically your activity that or your PowerShell that actually is written to achieve the specific type. So essentially, you could have, let's just say you use a PSFS resource, a file system resource. Essentially, you would just then create a use that resource. So essentially you would just use, for example, is PSFS log, which is part of the PSFS resource, and then the event, and then that would be it. So but it just means that you can do other things with it. So you could you know, have like log to the local disk, and when it reaches, you know, when the file is full, it then would upload that to Azure Blob Storage or something like that. So you kind of it gives you the flexibility, so you're not hard coded to that specific action, and on that specific resource you can pretty much write whatever you want. So that's my idea for that. Then obviously on each event and after each, so basically you can predefine variables that you want to be mentioned and post executable stuff that you'd like to be disposed, which is something that Romero kind of made a comment on, which I think that's actually that's very relevant. And then basically on each of the stream types you can customize the type. So in essence, actually I don't even think you need the message, you would just need something like that. Basically it's just a specific piece of PowerShell that tells how you want that event to be written. So there would be pre-programmed variables that you could be used. So for example, with stack on error, you would have stack trace and all that information available without having to, you know, pass that in. So it's all predefined. That's my idea anyway. Alright, so I think I'm going to stick with that for the time being. So essentially, the PSFS resources and REST resources, they're resources which kind of makes them, it's just kind of funny to think about because they kind of make it, I'm just going to use PSFS resource for the time being for this one. Essentially they would just be directories. They're not entirely modules as per se. Would you make them modules? If they're modules, then they'd be self-contained. Very basic. Because technically from a DSC perspective, they're a resource and a resource is available. So I'm thinking, would you make them a module? I'm just thinking about how it would sit in code. Like, I think it would make sense to make it a module. I think the concern there would be is that how overly complicated would it get, and I think it would get quite complicated. I think for initial release, it'll just be I will treat them as modules. They'll just be functions. That'll be .sourced in, and then essentially, as they grow, they would be farmed out to be modules. I think that would be the better way to do it. Okay, so module structure. So my whole idea here. So what do we need? So essentially, we're going to need PSLog framework, functions. Obviously all the supporting elements, which is going to be quite, yeah, that's going to be quite difficult. Because I have no idea what they are, but I was just going to call them supporting. So they're all those other, you know, little bits and pieces that we kind of need. On action. So the question is how would you, like, obviously you create the configuration, or you use a configuration. So we need to be able to create configuration. So this is really going to be setting. You need to be able to set a configuration on the machine. That's bad though, because you don't really want to set a configuration on a machine. You want to set a configuration on a script. Mark, what's your opinion on having arguments when you're actually importing modules? So when you know when you can import a module, you can specify arguments. I'm just thinking. My thought process is we actually can specify the configuration on the import so that it does it automatically, and then once the configuration's done, you're fine. Or you can basically import the module and then specify it, and it will write to a CLI.xml file. The script data. So let me know what you think, because I'm kind of sitting on the fence with that. So I think what we can do here is go configuration, go update. So we need to new new PSLog configuration framework. Framework config. So once we've done that, we've got new, remove, and we need PSLog. Also helps if I can spell, doesn't it? updates configuration. So I think you can set the configuration for a script. I'm not sure how that's going to apply to So the problem is I'm thinking now about runbooks and things like that. So runbooks are basically obviously going to change it because the script name is going to be different on each time. So you just can't hard code a script name in there because it's going to... No. No. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I think the only way you can basically do this is to have a set PSLog framework config. That basically configures the script for the logging. Otherwise, you're basically just like if you don't use it, so then you just do update trace log, nothing happens. It won't actually import. So yeah, I like that idea. So it simplifies the process. So it just sets configuration. And then at the end, you could have, ooh, maybe do we start? Well, I think we need a start, but set already does it anyway. PS. That would be able then to write your header information. All your info could be then similar to start transcript. Yes, and then so doing that, we can then come back to old mate here. So obviously with PSLog framework start logging, no, the instantiation happens on load. So that's that. And then we can actually do an on start and on stop. So on start. So on start and on stop, that's where you can write your header and your footer information. Okay, cool. All right, that actually makes sense. So now, thinking about that, now we got our module structure. Thinking now, okay, that works. So essentially, so So now if we go down that approach, it means that actually super simple, super easy to use, no issues. I'm just going to turn this fan up, it's absolutely cooking in here. It's spring and it is absolute cooking. Okay, so okay, so now I want to work out my directory structure. So essentially people can drop resources in resource directory. So now we just need to work out directory structure. Tossing up whether to use plaster. I'm probably going to use plaster to push this out. Yeah, probably going to use plaster to push this out. G'day Glenn, how you going, mate? Good to see you. This doesn't need to remain after the sessions, so sorry, after the script. So everything can just disappear after that. That's fine. I'm just thinking out loud in terms of scoping. Honestly, I think basically building the framework is actually going to be the easy part. Building the configuration is going to be the difficult part. Latency to broadcast is 53 seconds. Eep, doing okay. Damn. Okay, that is really latent. There is issues with it saying there's problems with the keyframe interval being too high. I have no idea how to fix that. So, you must be looking forward to DevOps Day next week. And obviously catching up for beersies, not beersies, but you know, having a catching up, which would actually be really good. Flying over the East Coast. I was going to ask, oh, we'll talk about it on Twitter, never mind. Okay. Alright, so I think that's pretty much my structure. I think I like that. Those days isn't it? Is it going over the weekend? Does DevOps Days go over the weekend? Hang on. October the 10th and 11th. Oh shoot. So October 10th and 11th, 2019. Really? I thought it was next week. I thought it was on the 14th and 15th. I don't fly down until Tuesday night on the 15th. I thought it was next week. I honestly thought it was next week. I'm just looking at the thing, but it says it's 10th and 11th. Anyway, I thought it was next week. Yeah, NDC Sid is next week, but I thought the DevOps days was off the back of it. Like it was during the workshops. Because I'm not going to be able to see you. I don't fly down till Tuesday next week. Oh, you're in Sydney till the 16th. Ah. Okay, now it makes sense. So yes. Ah, okay, cool. Okay, cool. Sweet, sweet. Okay, yes. Okay, cool. Yes. So we can yeah, we can definitely link up, mate. I'll be flying down Tuesday night. Well, Tuesday afternoon. I'll probably be there. I'll be definitely there Tuesday night. We can definitely catch up then. I'm just gonna check in and then go have dinner. I'm staying at Travel Lodge. In not the Martin Place one, up in I can't remember where it is now. So yeah. So I think the next thing we need to do is kind of just spitball a module out, kind of working out what I need to put in where. To be honest, I'm like, do I even just... Yeah, I think it all should fit inside of there. But yeah, okay. Anyway, so I think that should be fine. What's a date? Alright. Yeah, okay. So I'm thinking, alright, let's just throw some files down. It's not even that. We need to actually create a directory here. I'm just gonna call it PSLog framework. We need to create a PSM file. I'm going to need to create a new directory. And then we're going to be building our tests. Lots and lots of tests. I'm going to build this one to be as fault tolerant as possible. So now we need to have public G'day Big, how you going mate? G'day 12. PowerShell Remoting. Okay, so PowerShell Remoting is Jordan actually did a really good talk on it, and it was I really encourage. I kind of wish Jordan. I actually think I should get Jordan to do a live stream of it because it's an excellent talk. It basically talks about what is PowerShell Remoting. So essentially, PowerShell Remoting is your remote PowerShell. Is a remote command line for PowerShell, except it's not built on the traditional model of the old-fashioned way of PowerShell. It's built on a it's built on WinRM and WinMGMT for Windows. For PowerShell Core, correct me if I'm wrong, Glenn. That's where it gets really like I forgot what he says, but essentially, it's not built on WinRM. It's built on SSH. So essentially, you just can have remote. You can have remote sessions with other PowerShell. With another machine. So the best way to describe it is similar to psexec, where you'd have a psexec command prompt to run your remote commands. So just the one really cool thing about Windows remoting, yes, it does support WinRM. I didn't think it did support WinRM. I thought WinRM was only on Windows, because PowerShell Core only supported I'm only supported of that. No, what port does it work over? It sits on it can PowerShell Remoting either runs on HTTP or it actually runs on HTTP or HTTPS. But protocol, but yes, 445. 598. The only reason why I know it runs on HTTP and HTTPS is because I actually was I'm working out how. The interesting thing with PowerShell Remoting is, okay, if you look at Exchange Online, so Exchange Online has, when you look at its authentication method is basic. Now, Jordan did a really interesting talk on, actually, I have to go find this article. It's an exceptionally good article. WinRM, what's it called? He did an exceptional Bruce Pug talk. He basically was like, we actually were doing packet captures, and it was very, very interesting. This one here, this is an exceptional talk. And this one, no, it's just that one. But essentially, the way that PowerShell works with authentication is it supports multiple types. You have basic, which is just token. Essentially, it's just clear text token. Now this is authentication. This is not transport, so I'm just talking authentication. You can obviously run WinRM over HTTPS. But they supported basic. Now basic only supports local accounts, which, if you think about it, with Exchange Online applies to tenants with Azure Active Directory. So I'm thinking, how does that work? So okay. WinRM depot pause, PS promoting 1259, Glenn. Explain this to me. I'll do my best. I open a report from various stock, forks a new process. Why? And then I don't know why it's... You can then... Okay, so... Substantiate a new process. Alrighty, so... It's really complicated because there's a lot. Okay, while that's happening, I'm going to work out this. So, help, PowerShell Framework. So now I'm going to work out... Jordan's blog, is exceptionally good. Like the thing is though, Jordan works for Ansible, and his day-to-day was to do this. I think because he wrote a PowerShell module, not a PowerShell module. He wrote an item for Python. I'm just going to bring this up. It's like this is really good. Like so he talks about his Python pipelines, commands, streams, objects, process flow. If you really want a deep dive, this is the go-to. Everything's compiled as CLI XML, which I find very interesting. And he uses WSMan. Yeah, very interesting. There was another one which he did, which this is the one I read, and I have to actually. It's something you kind of need to sit down and read with a cup of tea. Where was it? This one here. So essentially, he really kind of breaks it down in terms of how it really ticks under the hood. Obviously, authentication, bypassing network restrictions, speed of performance, authentication. So you can see it's actually very interesting. He does, you can actually see the packet captures, certificate auth, negotiate, things like that. It just goes through it. Yeah, very interesting reading. Xenoworks PowerShell has a debugable stuff. I mean, yeah, Michael. Mate, jobs I can work based in the US and you'd make Aussie money. Mate, I don't have any jobs at the moment. We're not looking for anybody. 12 is talking about how WinRM serves. Man, this chat's blown up. Kind of need some mods. WinRM, 6 of PowerShell process for each session. PowerShell against window docking chains because child process spawning fails. Even if one seems wrong. Yeah, I feel like my sessions just got completely hijacked. But you guys can feel. Yeah. What's your thoughts on Amazon replacing sysadmins for automation? My thoughts on automation. It is what it is. At the end of the day, I automate for a living. I think where people basically get all up in arms about them losing their jobs is the fact that I had a discussion, this is a really good discussion with the help desk guys, is that the help desk guys were basically saying, I'm going to be out of a job because you're going to automate my IT service desk. And I said, I can understand that. That's 100% legitimate. I don't have any concern with that. But at the same time, though, there's 3 things that I found that from implementation of a automation with an IT service desk is that the IT service desk doesn't need to focus on that. They can do whatever they want. They can go and pursue other career aspects. So if all they want to do is IT service desk, okay, they're probably going to be in a bit of a pickle. But if they're actually more interested in doing something like PowerShell or Office 365 or Azure and things like that, they have the ability to do that, because the time that it takes for them to be able to go and do those tasks, they can go and train up elsewhere. And so the way my colleague Wayne actually said it, which I thought was really good, was that he said automate the worst jobs, because at the end of the day though, those people can go get better jobs. And I actually thought about that and I said, yeah, you're right. They can go upskill and go do something else. And this is actually one of the talks I submitted, was that previously at where one of the places I previously worked, we built Active Directory, we built the entire frame of the entire Windows infrastructure with automation in mind. So when we went to build the automation platform on top, we could automate anything. We had basically our entire IT service desk automated. If you needed access to a mailbox, it would go through an approval process, which the help desk never had to touch. And it was something that we actually worked out how much money we saved, and I think we saved, like, I can't remember. I definitely think we saved at least 2 staff, and we only had one IT help desk staff member really running the help desk. And so from an automation perspective, it was a huge success. You would know when it failed, because ultimately everyone knows when something goes wrong when something's not working, when it goes wrong. And people kept coming to us and say, this is broken. And the amount of tickets we had to do to create something, we actually didn't create those tickets. Also, we didn't actually action those tickets. We fixed the automation system and then provision them using the automation system. Because this brings me to my second point. Automation is essential for accuracy. So provided that the person has inputted the data correctly, the data then will traverse all the different infrastructures correctly. So rather than having to create that same account 5 times on 5 different systems, potentially you're increasing the risk by 5. You're either having no issues or you're having many issues. So automation, I actually have that happen to me. I actually had people say to me, my job was going away, and at the end of the day, though, basically you're either sink or swim. I think at the end of the day, as a business, if we're saying we're going to automate your job, that's fair enough. But I think also the business has to extend the branch halfway and say, hey, we're going to help you out, But at the same time, the person has to show an initiative to actually willingness to learn. And this is really where, again, it comes down to, are you a professional learner, or are you going to silo yourself? So if someone said to me, PowerShell's going away, we're writing a new language, I'll be the first guy on board getting on that language, because I'm not interested in, I'm more interested in basically being with the current times than basically trying to fight for something that's just not going to happen. It's just a waste of my time. It's better time better spent elsewhere. Got a jet. Michael will talk about that job you said. Oh, no worries, 12. So when does it end? It never ends. We'll be automating till the day we die. Because at the end of the day, though, think of it this way: do you think it's really do you think it's relevant to have a person manually import that person's task, or manually create a user and pay a person $30,000 a year, or give the opportunity for that person earning $30,000 a year and being able to actually create to be able to create to be able to go do something else with their lives? So at the end of the day, the way I see it is that it's generally, you have to keep automating. Automation has so many added benefits. Now, one person actually put it perfectly. They tried, the DevOps mission was to automate themselves out of a job, but the problem is they couldn't, because there was too much automation. So, yeah. And now this is another thing. So it's not really the point, so I don't really care, because you're automated at the moment. You have belief that jobs involve everything. Yes and no. 100%. I agree where you're coming from. I'm the guy that's writing the code, but when I started out, I wasn't. I was the help desk guy. And at the end of the day, though, I knew automation's the way to go. And I had a predisposition towards scripting, yes, back in VB scripting. But at the same time, though, the value of automation that it adds to a business to the bottom dollar is just important. Now, you can justify the cost, however, but at the same time, though, you're also giving an opportunity to an employee. And this is really one of the things that I was saying to my mates, and this is something that I believe very passionately about, is that I have a whole bunch of friends, and they were like, "Oh, my job sucks. I'm going to do IT, learn IT." And there was only, there was two people. One person took me up on the offer, had issues in the end when he got his diplomas, and then he basically went and became a council signpost turnsman. Okay, so he said no. The second guy, which was Christian, he's a SimTech. He basically did avionics, and he completed his apprenticeship. They said there's no jobs available. I remember saying to him, I said, if you want to earn money, do IT. And he said, most people go, okay, yeah. And then he actually took me up on that offer. And to be honest, is one of the most, he's the only person that's ever done it. And he's the guy that I have the most respect for, because at the end of the day, though, he saw an opportunity into a market where other people, and with a bit of hard work, and it takes hard work, yes, but at the same time, though, it's for him, he adapted, and he's now going to be rewarded. So, what if the software's if it does, perfect. I'd be happy, because then I can go and retire in my comfortable house. Or I'm going to go back and go do something else. But essentially, work is automation's going to be here to stay. So, anyway, I've got to focus on this. So, PS Log Framework. So, essentially, I need to build some tests. What if someone's not as capable of doing a job more complex than the one that's easy to automate? This is something that I personally believe. I actually had a discussion with my wife. Everyone says to me I'm smart. I actually don't say I'm smart. The reason why I'm not smart is because I didn't really do well at school. I don't have a great IQ. The only reason why people think I'm smart is because I write code. Okay. But coding is like learning a language. So if a person can basically learn a language, if a person can do anything, they're capable of doing. They're capable of learning. So at the end of the day, though, I actually don't believe anybody is incapable of learning. I think they believe they're incapable of learning, because at the end of the day, because you think of it as, okay, my child is growing up at the moment. She's learning how to walk, she's learning how to talk. Now, these are basic things, but the thing is that when she actually had to undergo these steps, she actually had to, these events, she had to undergo a series of sequences. She actually had to learn how to code. And so for a person to basically say, oh, I can't do a job because I'm not smart enough or I'm not good enough, I actually don't think that's true. I actually think that people have the capacity to learn. I just don't think people they have to be able to learn in a way that's relevant to them. So you can't teach a person the same way every single time. It just doesn't work. But at the same time, you can't. And that's the reason why I'm saying when you automate a person's job, you should be able to give them the opportunity to train, and they basically can go do whatever they want. If they want to become a rocket scientist, if they're working for NASA, fair enough, become a rocket scientist. If they have the And so I believe that everyone has the capacity to learn. If we have the capacity to our brain has an amazing capacity to store information. So yeah, I don't see that as an issue. Anyway, so we need to write tests for the framework. I think you're being too modest. I think there's people out there that are honestly not smart. No, I don't think I'm smart. The only reason why people think I'm smart is because people think because I can code. But the thing is if a person can speak French, If a person can speak Italian and basically be able to read and write Italian or French and being able to actually, you know, write the correct grammar structure, write the correct thing. Programming is the exact same thing. It's basically just learning, literally learning a language. Programming in terms of being able to write a book, think of it as like writing a module is like writing a book. You'd have to lay out your structure. Most people would have a bit of an idea how to write a book. It's the same concept. So basically, you know, the code itself is your grammar, is your sentence structure, your paragraph structure, execution flow, all those kinds of things. They're just basically a series of instructions to be able to achieve a task, where writing within speaking or writing is a similar process. You're trying to communicate or articulate a thought. So I personally, I still believe that people have the capacity to learn. So yeah, I think it's just that it's the willingness to learn. That's really where it comes down to. I've met people that can't do basic IT tasks. This, at the end of the day, though, the way I see it is, if they can sit there in front of you, and the thing is, if they don't understand it, they can't do it. And if they, okay, and then there's people that I've worked with that are inherently lazy. Don't get me wrong, I've known some IT people that are just inherently lazy, who they just don't have a willingness to learn. But at the end of the day, I'll still, like, I just fundamentally believe that people, if you can have a conversation with a person and the person's able to articulate a thought, they have the capacity to learn. So yeah, like, we've all got the same grey matter in our head. Like, there's no difference between you and I. In, like, you know, obviously, it's just one of them's attuned. The grey matter's attuned to a specific thing. Like, it's just, you know, it is what it is. Well, that's exactly right, Glenn. Like, okay, personally, to save my life, I cannot write a GUI. Like, I cannot write a GUI. Like, my wife, she would not be able to write a line of code, but she's able to, you know, edit videos. She's able to do things where, like, I sit in Photoshop and say, "Hey, Amy, I need you to fix my BrizPug image," because I don't know how to do it. And so at the end of the day, though, it's just they're different. If one person does a repetitive task so many times, they're going to get good at it. It's the same thing. And that's the reason why, yeah, you either, yeah, anyway. So I've got about an hour, so we're actually doing all right. Actually, I've got about half an hour. That's all right. So, PSLog framework, we've got our tests. I'm thinking, so essentially, our module structure is going to be like this. I'm thinking we're going to have a configuration, creates configuration, special configuration. Man, I don't know if I can actually say configure anymore. How long can we make Michael rant? I'm going to like start like just muting myself, so you just hear me go. And then you guys can just let the chat go, because, yeah. So I'm thinking, set PSLog framework. So essentially we're going to need, I generally break down my modules like so. You should do an AMA stream one day. I don't really have any viewers to do an AMA stream. I literally just got bumped in like 2 seconds flat, and then like there was 10 viewers. And I'm like, am I getting rated? Am I like, is this like a legit troll or something? Like, I'm just... So we got... So I'm thinking every function is going to sit inside of here. We'll just make it, oh no, because that's technically a commandlet. That's not going to sit inside of private. That's going to sit inside of here. I'm just going to call them commandlets. I honestly, this is going to need to be restructured. I think this is already trash. I'm probably going to use the plaster standard. I honestly feel like if we're going to do an AMA stream, it's going to be absolutely ludicrous because, like, yeah. I was saying to one person the other day about we want a lithium stock I was following, and we're having a chat there, and yeah. Anyway, so I think unfortunately, if you have a certain level of intelligence, you're not able to learn complex topics. This is actually comes down to two things in IT. There's two types of people in IT. This is something that Wayne, actually, my mentor, really good mate, taught me. Basically, you're going to have professional learners. Professional learners are the guys who are going to be continually studying. They're going to be continually doing something to further their skills, to push themselves further. They don't have to be the best, but those are the guys that you want to be around because they're the guys that usually say there's a better way to do this. Wayne was one of those guys, and he was a massive inspiration to me. And like even with this user group, and just being able to actually, like, my PowerShell, every time I think I've learned PowerShell, I just don't. I feel like I'm so average, which is a good thing. Then you have the other guys that basically silo. They're not interested in learning. They're not interested in doing anything. And those are the guys that I'm concerned about, because working with some of those guys, all they want to do is come in, sit down, do their job. That's it. Fair enough. If they want to do that, that's fair enough. But at the end of the day, though, if they're happy with that and they basically say, you know, like I'm happy with that, fair enough. But at the same time, though, if the business can basically look at that job and go, well, we're paying this person. Let's say you're a business. Put yourself in a business shoes. You're an owner of a business. You're turning, let's say you're turning $1 million a year. Now in Australia, for a standard help desk person, you're going to pay that person $60,000 a year. That's usually I don't know what the average rate is. I think it's, let's say, I think it's $60,000 a year. Now you're paying that person $60,000 a year. But the thing is that don't think of it as a cost. Think of it as a, let's say you automate them. Now that person, let's say all they do is do that specific action, and they don't want to learn. They don't want to. That's $60,000 that you're wasting. It's literally just burnt money. You can just burn that money. Now at the same time, though, that person, I'm not saying that you just get rid of them. Now, if that person, you give them the opportunity to learn, and they basically say, no, I don't want to do this, and they don't even have to do something technical. There is so much out there. They can do recruitment. They can do like so many other things outside of that's not technically specific. They can be a product manager. They can be a product owner. They can do other things that they will enjoy. And so at the end of the day, though, that reinventing that and then getting that $60,000 and then being able to pay them $20,000 more, and then to be able to bring in extra billable hours is an asset to the business. And so if the business looks at it as a dollar figure and go, okay, yeah, get rid of them. Yeah, okay. Yeah, but at the same time, though, like, you don't really kind of, if you do it yourself personally, if you've got a Netflix subscription that you don't use, bad analogy, but just go with me with it. You're going to get rid of it. You don't think about Netflix. You just basically go, I'm going to get rid of it. So it just comes down to they're just the same thing. Will all the truckers and drivers be automated once vehicles replace their job, and will they all learn how to code? They're not going to learn how to code. They're just going to do other jobs. So they could be doing like, you can be loading, like, the best way, I said to Wayne, my mentor, I said, think of McDonald's. Let's look at McDonald's, for example. They're the biggest employer of Australian, one of the biggest, actually, no, I think it's Woolies, but McDonald's basically one of the biggest employers of kids, which is fantastic. But at the same time, though, think of it as McDonald's. They're a very streamlined, optimized organization. So when you prepare a burger on that grill, goes through all the different stations and it comes into your hands, that's human hands that are touching it. Well, why doesn't he just build a robot? That's really like, then you're going to have those people just going to be maintaining the robots. Will you have as many? Probably not, unfortunately. But at the end of the day, though, it's a cost-saving mechanism. Yeah. Like, I can see where you're coming from. Like, there's just people who are just not going to be able to do that, and they're going to kind of fall off the rung. I think in those kinds of situations, a greater attention to detail will be needed for retraining. But at the same time, though, it can even be something that's, you know, phased out. So throughout, you know, time, it's not something that you immediately just, yank. Was it? Oh, you just yank them out. So yeah, I don't know. That's rank and yank. Sorry. You just remove them. So, anyway, resources. So PSLog framework functions. So PSLog framework. Then we're gonna have. Anyway, on to other topics. It's cloudy today. It's not even building or maintaining robots. It's basically just, you're not maintaining, you're just, you know, feeding it. Like, look at a factory worker. That's what they're doing. So they're just feeding them. They're not preparing the package anymore. They're just feeding them into robots. The difference between us is I have a belief that individuals simply have the capacity to do complex tasks, but you believe they can. Yeah. The only reason why I believe they have an ability to do complex tasks is because they basically, if they can walk and talk, they have the ability to do a complex task. It might take some people 10 years longer to do something. Like, it might take me, 10 years to learn French, but I will learn French if I wanted to. And humans have the amazing capacity to do things, to push themselves further than they have ever been. Okay, so got that. Okay, we're gonna invoke. Okay, do we need to invoke PS5? Yes, that needs to run. Oh no, that just goes in the resources. So the next part is I need to. Oh, I think we need to move on from this convo. I think this definitely needs to go into a Discord. Yeah, definitely needs to go onto the Discord. Anyway, so unless other people want to chime in and keep this discussion going, I don't mind. I just think it's kind of distracting. It's distracting me too much. So I'm literally just been sitting here looking at a blank screen because I've been trying to articulate what I need to think, what I need to do for the structure. So we've got PSLog framework. That's a commandlet. We'll go in. Oh, so that. So I'm just literally just scrapping this up. So set log PS framework. Walking, talking is the best thing to do. Walking and talking is not something that we've evolved to do. It's something that's learned. 100% learned. My daughter can't walk. She can't talk. She's learning to walk and talk by listening to us. It's something like when my daughter was born, she had to learn how to sleep. She didn't know how to sleep. That sounds kind of weird, but if you watch her when she was trying to go to, she didn't know how to fall asleep. She would become overtired, then she would become super cranky, and then Amy would have to feed her to sleep. And it was something that she had to learn how to sleep. You have to put them in a routine to put them to sleep. It's not something that's automated, from the get-go. It's something that has to be learned consciously for it to become subconscious. Humans have evolved to learn how to walk and talk. It's the basics of a human being. Not just an IT, however, as a linguist to learn. But that's the bit, this is where it comes back down to, this is not the ability to learn, this is the willingness to learn. If a person doesn't have any interest in learning, then that's their problem. IT is not about siloing, it's about professional learning. If you do not do professional learning, you will eventually be working with a outdated product and then be sitting on the sidelines. If you want to be in the mix of it, you have to be continually to learn and evolve. Like that's IT. We're changing so fast. It's not funny. Like think of it, 5 years ago, you had Azure. Azure didn't even really exist. Think of it like everyone was still on-prem. You had your Exchange server, you had your file servers. You know, VMware was obviously hypervisors were considered the be all end all. It's a trap, Michael. Oh, hey, Gail. Like, if you can't walk and talk, you would die and never pass on your genes, right? But that's the same as breathing. I'm like, Gail's in channel. We're in trouble. I don't know if yeah. Anyway, yeah, I personally believe, like, I can see people's point, but at the same time though, I think people have to recognize the fact it's not like it's the ability to be able to actually have the ability to learn. It's not the ability to learn, it's the desire to learn. If a person, like, if you put a person in school and he doesn't want to be in school, he's not going to learn anything. It's as simple as that. So it isn't really fair. You can say breathe. The point that I was trying to make with regards to, for example, my daughter trying to learn to sleep is the fact she had to learn to sleep. It's an actual physical action that she had to do. For her to walk and talk, she had to learn. And we by watching us, she's actually learning that. Now, kids have an amazing capacity to learn. So yes, kids have an advantage at learning because their brain matter so much more elastic. But at the same time though, she is wanting to walk and talk. When before she wanted to crawl, she nearly worked it out. But man, she was worming, squirming. She wanted to do whatever she was going to get to point A to point B. But until she actually learned how to put one and one to actually crawl, she just couldn't. So, and once she did, then we had to put the baby gates up. Anyway. While you do that, I'm just going to send you a video. I don't know if you've seen this. This is actually an amazing video. I follow Destin on Smarter every day. I don't know if you guys watch this. This is a very, very good video. It teaches you...
Hey, it's me, Destin.
Oops, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just post the link. Where's this one? My point is, not all humans are capable of putting these complex jobs and becoming more interesting in the job industry. What? Yeah, okay. I can see your point, but at the same time, though, I still have to respectfully disagree. So, yeah. Yeah. Anyway, let's leave it there. So, anyway, moving forward. So we got our module structure. Come on, let's PowerShell Framework. So we're going to need PS set log. Now I need to focus on. So I got a PS log framework. And now once we've done that, we need to have a. I'm just going to call it commandlet. With PS log framework, we need to have. Well, it's essentially all we need, really. Just kind of think about the demo. I do think we're going to need a lot of private gear, a lot of private functions. Private gear, I don't know what I'm thinking there. Yeah, I totally forgot about those ones. So we need to have start.ps1. And then we need stop. So now, from a unit testing perspective, Glenn, you're probably going to be able to help me out on this one. Obviously, we're testing code execution. What was testing code? The code execution and flow through all the various elements. I'm just thinking the intention here with start and stop PSLog framework would be, I'm thinking would be that requires an output, but you don't really need to test the output. Yeah, anyway. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, obviously, so I need to work out, obviously, I'm going to start writing my tests. I'm going to run my mocks. Run my commandlets. Actually, no, I'm just going to write unit integration. Yeah, would need integration tests. Oh, hello, cat. What are you doing there? Alright, so essentially we're going to need PSLog framework, module structure, demo. So essentially we just define a configuration. So I'm thinking for as an input for my module, Glenn, with regards to how do you unit test a PSM file? Sorry, a PSM1 file. So I'm thinking you'd physically have to import the module, but I'm like that, and then you just have to test. Yeah, you'd import the module and then you just test the execution path through the module. I'm guessing that's the way you would have to do it. Yeah, okay. So what we're going to do, first things first, we need to write some module. I'm just kind of, I'm still spitballing here at the moment. I'm just trying to work out what, obviously importing the module, should I have arguments that you can pass? HTTP GitHub, pasta wiki module scope. Oh, you're kidding. This is why. This is why. github.com/ I'm just going straight good old GitHub. Are you going to open up a new tab? Oh, no. Waterfox doesn't do that. Pasta. Wiki. So was it in module scope? Where's the search bar? Where's the search bar? In. For the script blocks is. Oh, I wish I knew that beforehand. That's so cool. Okay, cool. Okay, some idea here. I'm still like, I'm just kind of, so import's going to be, literally you can just import module. You can have also the added argument with the configuration. Now if the argument of the configuration's there, it will call set. It also helps if I can spell. I'll put my case sensitivity. Sorry, I just dropped an F-bomb. There we go. So if we go PS log framework like so, it'll call set PS log framework. So essentially, you can import your module past your configuration. Cool. Once module's imported, what we need to do is call all supporting functions. Now the interesting thing here is with regards to the actual, it's under, we've got public here, then we've got functions. Actually, no, it's not in there. Where is it? Module structure. So essentially, the resources will go inside the resources directory. So later down the line, I think resources will be mounted as an actual module, PowerShell module. So it'll be emitted from. It won't be emitted. It basically, when you specify a resource, essentially you'll just be saying import that module. That's what I'm thinking, just so that it means that then basically people can create their own configuration resources, and it doesn't specifically tie to the module itself, and it decouples it. So that's my intention there. Could be wrong. It's probably a terrible idea. Yeah. Oh, Jacob does a talk. Okay. I'm gonna suss that one out. Definitely gonna suss that out. And Pesto's like, more and more I use Pesto, the more and more I love it. It's the same as Custo. The more and more I use Custo, the more and more I love it. So anyway, so if argument of configuration is present, I'll call PS. Yes. Okay, sweet. So I'll just load those configurations. So when we run set PS log framework, I'm just kind of articulating what I need to do here. So when we run PS set log framework, this essentially. Ooh, we're missing one function. I just remember we're missing a function. Actually, no, we're not. Yes, we are. We're missing a function. We're missing actually missing PS log framework, the actual function. So that needs to go inside of here. Describe and get help. It is. One of the things I just quickly sussed out is describe a commandlet, and it is. So what that means is PS log framework can be a commandlet. Obviously going to go against every naming standard out there, but that's fine. So essentially we can, in here, PS log needs to build a execute the configuration. Obviously, it is executing the configuration. So what it is doing inside of here, let's have a look. What else we need? Okay, we're going to need on load, on action, on start, on stop. They're all okay. Look, so these all are going to be commandlets as well. .ps1, because you're running that, you're setting it. So on action will be 1 as well. Because we're executing it, we need to meant to be that on start, on stop. This is just kind of blown out a bit now. I was like, oh, it's only a couple of functions. This is good. And then I'm like, wait a second, no, it's not. I wish I could. Before each, after each. New file. Is Gal still on channel? I don't know. He kind of disappeared. If you want a specific assignment, surprising truth of what motivates us. Gal, are you still on channel, mate? Oh, sweet. You're DSC Gal, aren't you? Okay, I have an awesome story for you. I told Glenn this. I don't know if Glenn told you this, but it's actually a really funny story. So, Glenn. So when we were doing, that's going on LinkedIn. Okay, I like anyone could like I don't trust any name on like I could have another Glenn Satari and be like a Glenn Satari 2 and I'll be like that's not Glenn Satari. I don't have to actually ask him anyway. But essentially, when Wayne was giving the DSC talk, and he mentioned you, and then Sati, yeah, who the F is that? That's you, mate. It's you. That's your new name, all right? It's Satari. Sati. No, it's Satari now. Closely related to Atari. I can't pronounce things for nuts. So what happened was when Wayne was giving the DSC talk at the BrisPug meetup, and then basically you jumped in channel. Glenn, Mitch was like, oh yeah, Glenn's in channel, and I remember when Wayne was like, he told me afterwards, he was like, oh crap, Glenn's in channel. Oh man. I better make sure I'm doing this right. And he was freaking out, and he was like, "Oh man, yeah, the stream thing could be bad." Oh man, I was having the biggest laugh ever. I'm thinking, oh man, yeah, I hope Tyler doesn't jump in on like my Azure DevOps my Azure Functions stream. I'll be like, oh man, it's like, no, that's not right. And I'll be like, oh. But yeah, that was still funny though. It was still a funny laugh. We had a laugh at him about it. So yeah, man, we're all humans. Well, that's exactly right. We're all humans. It's all good. It's all good in the hood. Man, I honestly thought, I was like, nah, this is only going to be a... Yes, Claire, what do you want? Just stretching, okay. My cat's like underneath on my desk at the moment sleeping. She decided to play with my my new Crest laptop. Stuff I ramble about in my talks. Yeah. I feel like I feel like imposter syndrome in IT is the worst. Like when I'm giving a talk, I'm like, oh, I don't feel like I'm the best person to give this talk on it. Like give the talk, and then I'm like suffering from the heebie-jeebies, and I've got to like sit down and remind myself, no, I've done enough to be able to actually communicate effectively to the audience exactly, and be able to communicate and teach them something versus kind of, oh no, I don't know nothing. So yeah, like I wouldn't be able to give a talk on DSC. I'd be like, you'd just be like, all the viewers would be gone. So they'd just be like, this is trash. But yeah, okay, I need to save everything firstly. All right, so we're going to set PSLog framework. So this will obviously set up. This will execute. Let's execute the framework. So they'll actually execute the PSLog framework. Once we've executed the PSLog framework, so within here, this would be the. Don't hate me, Glenn. I am writing a function. I'm just kind of pseudocoding right now. I'm not going to obviously I just need to visualize it. So don't like kill me for unit-based testing. Or you can, and then I'll just feel bad. I'm like a test. Like every time you jump on, the first thing that goes through my mind is test-driven development, test-driven development, test-driven development. Make sure you write test-driven development, test-driven development, and then I'm like I'm working on this project, and I've actually had to refactor the code. So I refactored the code and then wrote the unit test. I started to write the unit test. But the thing was that the project deadline's starting to loom, and because I'm going to be in NDC next week, I have to actually just kind of start debugging and without unit testing or integration testing. So I was like, okay, that's going to have to come after that. And I'm just thinking, Glenn's going to hate me, Glenn's going to hate me, Glenn's going to hate me. I'm just thinking like it's just like going against all my testing, like my testing vibes. Like it's just not, yeah. Anyway, so we're going to execute. So the first thing we need to do is load our resources in. So essentially this will just be executing script blocks. No, I'm one of those offend. Okay. I feel better about that. I just really don't like that. I don't really do that. Quick screenshot. No, that's cool. I find don't get me wrong, like at the end of the day though, I find unit and integration tests are just incredibly valuable. So for example, the code that I did unit test worked flawlessly. There was no issues with it at all. Actually no, there was one logic issue which I needed to fix, but that was just because it wasn't to do with the unit testing. It was to do with me. So anyway, so PSLog framework. Load our resources in. Okay, so we load our resources. That PS framework. Sorry, I'm literally kind of like muddling my way through this, trying to work out how I'm going to do this. So on load, we'll actually execute our resources. That'll instantiate. I'm going to use the word instantiate. Essentially, it's just going to import those modules. For a second, I was thinking maybe I should use a PowerShell class, and then I thought about it some more, and then I just thought, no, that was a bad idea. Because PowerShell classes are just the worst. So we'll let our resources in on load. This will need to set So how am I going to set those values? So if we've got on load here, we've got our parameters. Essentially, we've got our parameters. But writing testable is a skill. Thanks, mate. So essentially, log my modules. Just trying to work out how am I going to. I'm thinking what I'm going to do here I'm just like is maybe use a require. So we create a require commandlet which requires so you require the name and then the parameters. So you could have like the name could be like require. So this is my idea. My thought process here is that when you import the module basically creates a essentially a resource. It just creates a resource list. And then you basically, it's very similar to how PowerShell does modules. So then you'd use the require, not to confuse with requires, or do, actually no, I'm going to use a resource. So you use the resource commandlet function, specify the name, so then basically PowerShell knows what name to go look at. So let's say PS FS, so PowerShell file system. We'll just call it file system first, say file system for example. And these are the parameters that it runs when it invokes it. And what we could actually, okay, this is my idea. Okay, this is actually starting, I think this is kind of starting to hang together a bit. So essentially, when you create a resource, the resource would just need, like very similar to DSC, you'd have, well similar, but it's kind of, you'd need to define a schema which then they would need to follow. So you would then go, like I'm thinking you could go, like we could just grab this like so. Get rid of that. That's just. So you just specify your parameters. I don't think you need. Yeah, it's script block. Don't know what I'm going to do there. I'll probably shortcut that later and remove that. Essentially, these would be the in essence your object instantiation parameters. But in this instance, you would have in the resource, you would have in each of the resources. So for example, for PS files, for file system, for REST, for all them, you would have an invoke. And then what resource does is resource basically invokes that specific resource and sets up, in essence, creating your object. I'm just kind of jumping over and putting myself in C# at the moment. So you would then create your object. And that would then basically manage, that would then be your configuration or your resource for that. And so then the way that the module would work is you'd have your resource mapping, and then it would just create an additional object which would contain the loaded resources. And they would just be instantiated, in essence, they would just be an instantiated object. It would be a function, but in essence, it would just return a PS object, which would just or it'll just be imported module. It'll be a module, but it'll have the instantiated object. So when you call something, it already knew how to make that work by because it's already in memory. Yeah. Sorry, I'm rambling, but I'm kind of just trying to articulate how to structure it, and I think that's probably a better way. A DSL in essence. Yes. Exactly right. Exactly right. So I literally like my code architecture for my code architecture generally comes from REST. Building modules in REST, that's fairly easy, but building modules that actually don't require REST and things like that, it's suffering me. But that's my idea. So essentially you could have resource name, file system, parameters, rollover. So you could define your rollover, your file size, whether it's archivable. So these parameters would only apply for example to the file system resource, similar to any sort of DSC resource. So you could have, so for a file system you could define, the rollover is, it will roll over. You would have a 10 meg file limit. It would archive that rollover, and you could specify the path. Where, for example, with REST, you could specify the token information, you could specify, the URL endpoint, the method, the context, all that information would be then defined in that configuration. So I think that would actually be, I think that's actually, I like that. I think it's a little easier to read as well. So, so if we just go resource file system, but the thing is it has to match the resource. I don't know if you can hear my bub in the background. No, you can't. She's like getting really upset about not having food. She gets popped down on her chair and she gets mightily mad. Okay, so yeah, okay. Yep, I think we're gonna do that. So essentially, when PSLog framework runs and loads, it basically instantiates the resources. Well, actually, all it really does is, this is the hard part. So onload is creation. So onload. So essentially, this would actually, this literally would just serve as a you would just, in essence, just guess. Say global. You would have, let's just say, resource. Creation of resources. No, let's just. You would actually just have framework resources, and so that would just then call the onload segment. Or do you just? That has to go. You can't have resources up there and then resources there. Resource has to go there. So resource goes there. So then you execute onload. Oh, so we're executing this. I'm just trying to think about how it's going to execute. So essentially, it's going to execute that. So all it really needs to do, realistically, is just .source it to execute the script block. Realistically, that's all it really needs to do. It just needs to execute the script block. So if you've got a structure like this, okay, your name, your dependencies. So you would set your name, so that would need to be set. I'm just going to chuck some parameters in here. So the configuration will be a script block. So it'll be a script block, and then you just invoke that in line. Yeah, that's all you really need to do. You just need to invoke the script block in line. I don't think you need to do anything else. I think you're obviously going to need to set the framework name. You'd probably check, to be honest, if the resources, or if the no, because it is the configuration. So go for your framework name, just specify a framework name. Once you get your framework name, invoke script block in line. Yeah, that's it. Realistically, it's all that really needs to be done, because at the end of the day, though, it's just you probably I'm not going to wrap it inside a try catch here because I'd rather do it lower level. I think that's probably going to be a good idea. It just means that it'll catch all terminating errors. So basically, when writing resources, you need to be able to cater for the fact that a terminating error will, unless you're actually no, because if you can, it's just nested try catches. Then no, that's fine. But terminating errors won't actually throw. That will be the only concern. So if you're writing a resource, people need to be aware that it won't throw. That's fine. I don't see any issues with that. Okay, cool. I think I'm going to leave it there for today. I think I've made a really good progress, apart from all the really interesting discussions we had. Yeah, cool. All right. Let me just focus on. So I think I'm going to leave it there for today. Definitely a very productive day. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Yeah, definitely very interesting. It's really interesting because this whole concept, it's teaching me a lot about how Pester works. You'll DM me early next week. Yeah, no worries, mate. 100%. Yep, definitely looking forward to catching up, mate. But yeah, I'll be down Tuesday, so we can definitely catch up in the city. So I'm guessing Puppet Labs is in the city. Yeah, cool. So we can, yeah. At the end of the day, though, I'm like, yeah, I'm quite capable of walking anywhere on the CBD, so it's all good. Oh, sweet, sweet. That's easy then. It's very easy. We can catch up for dinner. Yeah. So anyway, thanks, man. Thanks for coming. Thanks, Gail, for joining. Really appreciate it. Yeah, it's really good to see you online. See you guys online, and have a bit of a yarn. So. And you see me fumbling through code. I'm trying to work out how to structure this, which is, it's interesting because it's for me it's actually teaching me a lot about how Pester actually works. Obviously they're not the same, but it's in essence the only reason why the way that I learned how Pester works from a code structure perspective was looking at the code and realizing, hang on a second, it's just script blocks. And then once I realized that, everything just became clear. So, but I think, yeah, we're going to leave it there for today. Definitely was an interesting discussions that was going on regarding retraining and ability to learn. So obviously there's a lot of differencing points there, which is obviously everybody's entitled to their opinion. That's fair enough. And yeah, it was good. So I definitely enjoyed today's chat. A lot of chat going down, which was always good. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you liked it, I'm not even going to say it, but yeah. So this Saturday I'm not going to be streaming PowerShell 101 live because it's my daughter's birthday. So we'll be back. I won't be back next Saturday because I won't be streaming Tuesday because I'll be catching up. We'll be in Sydney, so. Maybe Glenn, we could do a collab tomorrow on Tuesday night. So we could do a quick catch up live and do a quick collab Tuesday night. That'd be quite interesting. Yeah, collab from the pub. We're going to work on this together, so that'd actually be quite interesting. 4G. That's what's going to go wrong. I tried streaming on 4G and it did not go well. My phone just died, so that could potentially go wrong. But anyway, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Yeah. Hopefully see you guys next time. Saturday won't be streaming because it's daughter's birthday. Next Tuesday won't be streaming because I'll be in Sydney, but I'll be back next Saturday with PowerShell 101 live. I can't remember what I'm covering. I know it's going to be, we just did filtering and conditions, so it'll probably be, it's looping. We're going to be covering looping, so that's going to be really cool. We're going to be doing deep dive into looping. And might be something else. So I'm usually kind of adding something on the side. So anyway, guys, if you're interested for that, definitely check it out. But yeah, bye for now.